As Washington mulls over tighter gun control laws, some women are equating gun rights with women's rights. Joining me is Ronnee Schreiber, San Diego State University political science professor and author of the book Writing Feminism, Conservative Women and American Politics. Before we talk, Professor, I want to play some sound bites from last week's launching of the gun control debate in Washington.
Guns make women safer. Over 90% of violent crimes occur without a firearm, which makes guns the great equalizer for women. The vast majority of violent criminals use their size and their physical strength to prey on women who are at a severe disadvantage. In a violent confrontation, guns reverse the balance of power.
It will be hard, but the time is now.
Professor Schreiber, I just want to start out with the facts first. The proposed legislation by President Obama, who's actually campaigning for it in Minnesota today, does nothing to impede a woman's right to purchase a gun and use it to defend herself, correct?
Correct. That is, his proposed legislation is mostly has to do with increasing background checks and some restrictions on military-style weapons.
And yet, as we saw in the sound bites, Gail Trotter of the Conservative Independent Women's Forum appears to be equating gun rights with women's rights. What's the strategy here?
Well, it's basically, we typically think of women's issues as being more feminist issues. And so part of the strategy that Gail Trotter is using is to say that conservative issues are also women's issues, and that conservative women have a perspective on issues that may be different from what we typically think of feminists think of the issues. So she really came to that hearing to speak as a woman on behalf of what she understands women's interest to be in this gun debate.
And how is this strategy working with women? Is it appealing to them?
Well, I haven't seen any shift from there in terms of public opinion. Thus far, public opinion would show that she's not really on the side of women's public opinion in terms of whether or not there should be complete access to a variety of weapons, and whether or not we should have armed guards in school and so on. Mostly women favor restrictions on those things. So from a pure public opinion point of view, she's basically not speaking on behalf of the majority of women right now. However, she's the only person during that hearing that was actually speaking as a woman. Obviously, Gabrielle Giffords is a female, but Trotter was actually making the argument that this is a woman's interest or issue, and here's why. And she was the only one that was doing that. So I think that has some kind of sway, at least among lawmakers. They can use it to legitimize their position, saying women want this.
And, we often don't hear women getting involved in the gun control debate. And yet, there are some gun statistics that are extremely pertinent to women. For instance, women are 3 times as likely, if they live in a home with a gun, are 3 times as likely to be a victim of homicide than a woman who doesn't live in a home with a gun. And women are more likely than men to be killed by a spouse or a partner. So again, it seems like it could be a very effective strategy, or the start of a very effective strategy.
Absolutely. I mean, there really are data to show that what you're just saying, that women are more affected by gun violence in certain circumstances than men are, so in particular with guns in the home. And so, to build on the data that you just gave, basically with homes that have guns in them, women are less safe as opposed to more safe because of the domestic violence issue. So the feminist group, the National Organization for Women, for example, actually made a statement to that effect, saying, they support the Obama legislation because of this. Of course, again, it does beg the question whether or not the Obama legislation will put a stop to any of that, because probably most of those guns are also handguns. So,
exactly.
Yeah,
and
it needs to go further from their perspective.
So there was a Pew poll that came out recently, and actually there's some divisions between how men see gun control and how women see gun control. And women do tend to support more gun restrictions than men do. Women, by contrast, prioritize controlling gun ownership. They view this as more important compared with 38% of men who prioritize gun rights. Are women also not protected by tighter gun laws? I mean, it's hard to tell at this point, correct?
Right. Yeah, it is hard to tell. I mean, I think again, we've talked about these statistics about domestic violence, and so if there were more restrictions maybe on other types of weapons, or maybe greater background checks or something like that, or if included in background checks were the inability to sell weapons to people who have had restraining orders taken out against them, who had had any kind of prior conviction of some kind of a domestic violence activity or something along those lines. And maybe that is in the legislation, or that's already in place, but maybe it needs greater enforcement or more kind of universal attention.
I think, though, because women haven't been a prominent voice in the gun control debate, there might be a temptation to dismiss this women's group or other women's groups like this women's group as being pawns of gun control activists. Is that a mistake?
I think it's a huge mistake, and it's insulting to feminist and conservative women, or wherever you fit along that spectrum, because these women are speaking from a perspective that they actually believe is true. And nobody's, making them do it. They're representing women, and they're representing their organization, and they're representing their beliefs.
And we're going to have to wrap it there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.